America put a man on the moon, built the interstate highway system, invented the internet. But right now, in the middle of one of the most remote deserts on Earth, a machine is doing something no American company, no American engineer, and no American crane has ever done. And it is doing it on wheels. This machine weighs so much that just one of its hydraulic cylinders, a single component, tips the scale at 32 tons. Its arm stretches taller than a 60-story skyscraper. It traveled over 2,000 kilometers across China just to reach its job site. And when it finally got to work, it lifted 4,000 tons into the air. The best crane in America can lift 1,200 tons. This machine lifts 4,000. That is not a small gap. That is more than 3 times the capacity. That is the difference between a pickup truck and a freight train. This is the Zoomlion ZAT40000H, the largest wheeled crane ever built on this planet. And the story of what it did, why it exists, and what it means for the future of energy, that is what we are getting into right now. Why China needed a monster. China's Gobi Desert in the northwest gets temperatures swinging from negative 40 degrees in winter to blazing heat in summer. Almost no people, no infrastructure, just wind, rocks, and sky stretching in every direction for hundreds of kilometers. That wind is worth trillions of dollars. China has been building the largest wind farms on Earth across this desert. Wind turbines turn that constant, powerful desert air into electricity that travels through cables to cities hundreds of kilometers away. Clean electricity. No burning coal. No exhaust. Just spinning blades doing the work. But here is the problem nobody talks about. Wind turbines keep getting bigger because bigger blades catch more wind and produce more electricity. The turbines being installed in the Gobi today stand over 170 meters tall. That is taller than most skyscrapers in the world. America has wind farms too, but the average American wind turbine tower sits around 90 to 100 meters. China is now building them at 170 meters, nearly double. And to install a 170-meter turbine, you need a crane that has never existed before. America's largest mobile crane, the Liebherr LTM 1100 9.1, can lift 1,200 tons. Genuinely impressive. But this job required 4,000 tons of lifting capacity. America did not have the machine for it, so China built one. 2,000 kilometers before a single bolt was lifted, before the Zoomlion ZAT40000H lifted anything, it had to get to the desert. That alone is an engineering achievement that deserves its own story. The crane travels in hundreds of separate pieces. The full convoy includes the main crane body and 28 support vehicles. When that line of trucks and heavy carriers moves down a highway, it looks less like a construction convoy and more like a slow-moving city. Every single piece is enormous on its own. The slewing platform, the circular base that lets the crane rotate, weighs 65 tons. That is 12 adult elephants. Just that one component. The 2 base boom sections each weigh 66 tons. The rear outriggers weigh 20 tons each. Even the hydraulic cylinders, which most people would never think about, weigh 32 tons apiece. That entire convoy crossed over 2,000 kilometers of Chinese roads to reach the site in northwest China. Every bridge had to be checked for weight limits in advance. Every tight turn had to be mapped out. Every overnight stop had to be coordinated across the full convoy. It took weeks. And when it finally arrived at the desert site, the real challenge was only just beginning. Assembly in the middle of nowhere, building the world's largest crane from scratch in a desert with wind blowing and temperatures dropping sharply overnight, is not something that happens with a checklist and a few basic tools. 2 separate support cranes worked together just to lift the 65-ton slewing platform into its correct position. Engineers had to align 2 massive circular platforms perfectly before hydraulic pins could lock them into place. Workers attached the outrigger legs 20 tons each and placed wide, flat pads underneath them to stop the machine from slowly sinking into the desert floor under its own enormous weight. Then came the boom. 7 sections, assembled one by one. The 2 base sections alone weigh 66 tons each. In older cranes, workers had to hammer metal pins into position using giant sledgehammers. This machine uses hydraulic cylinders that connect sections automatically precise, mechanical, and far faster. The most dramatic moment of the entire assembly came when the superlift wings spread open. These two giant arms extend out behind the crane and hold the counterweight that prevents the machine from tipping forward during a lift. When those wings fully extended, the crane stopped looking like construction equipment and started looking like something from a science fiction film. Total reach with the boom fully extended, 186.4 meters into the sky, a 60-story building, and it can hold hundreds of tons at that height without moving. The lift America can't match this turbine was built to generate 6,000 kilowatt hours every single hour, enough to power hundreds of homes from wind alone. 3 cranes worked in sequence to install it, a 900-ton for the base, an 1,800-ton for the middle sections. Then the 4,000-ton Zoomlion took over for the very top. The hardest lift was the nacelle 150 tons, dangling at 170 meters in desert wind. Guide ropes on all 4 corners. One wrong gust, and it's over. Then came the blades, 108 meters each, longer than a football field. The first blade arrived. They couldn't install it. Too much wind. So they waited. Just before dawn, the air went still. The lift began immediately. By sunrise, the blade was locked in place. What this really means, the Zoomlion ZAT40000H didn't just install one turbine. It proved something far bigger. It proved that China now builds machines the rest of the world simply cannot match. While others debate energy policy, China is putting 170-meter turbines in remote deserts, using cranes they invented themselves and transported 2,000 kilometers on public roads. Hundreds of turbines are already spinning across the Gobi. That single 625-megawatt machine generates enough electricity for hundreds of homes every single hour. Multiply that across an entire desert full of turbines, and you begin to understand the scale of what is being built out there. One final number. China added more wind power capacity last year than the total installed wind capacity of most countries on Earth. They are not catching up to anyone. They already left. The 4,000-ton crane is the headline. But the real story is what it represents. A country that decided it needed a machine the world had never built, and then went ahead and built it. Drop in the comments what surprised you more, the size of the crane, or the fact that America's best mobile crane is 2,800 tons behind? Subscribe and hit the bell. Next one drops soon.